Good afternoon, everyone. I am Ching Ching Gasalatan.
I am Shining Star Romas, and we are Group 21 reporters.
So today we will be tackling about the security of cyberspace, vectors, occurrence, and damage. Before we proceed, let me tell you what is a cyberspace.
Cyberspace is like a magical world that exists inside computers and the internet. Just like how we have a physical world around us, cyberspace is a virtual world that exists in the realm of technology. This means that when we use our computers or phones to send messages, play games, or do other things online, we are actually interacting with this digital world. The term, cyberspace, was first used by a science fiction writer named William Gibson in his book Neuromancer. He described it as a place where people can interact with each other and with machines using only their thoughts. While we don't quite have that level of technology yet, cyberspace is still a very real and important part of our lives. But cyberspace isn't just about sending messages or playing games. It's also where we store and share information, like pictures, videos, and documents. It's where we can learn new things and connect with people from all over the world. And just like in the physical world, there are good things and bad things that can happen in cyberspace. One of the bad things that can happen in cyberspace is cyberbullying, where people use technology to hurt or bully others. It's important to be kind and respectful online, just like we should be in the physical world. So remember, cyberspace is a fun and exciting place, but we also need to be responsible and use it in a positive way.
The security of cyberspace can be conceptualized best from a user's perspective, broadly defined. A secure cyberspace is one in which a user can make use of the internet without an unreasonable fear of suffering a high cost, with cost being defined in some combination of reputational, monetary, and rights violations terms. While on the other hand, an insecure cyberspace environment is the opposite, or basically one in which using the internet is likely to impose a large cost upon the user. This section outlines how to operationalize the level of security in cyberspace by looking at the available vectors for attack, the occurrence of online cyber attacks, and the cost of successful attacks. Together, these three categories give a sense of how insecure cyberspace is for an individual user. This conceptualization of the security of cyberspace can be expressed as a function of three factors. First, the vectors available for cyber attack. Second, the occurrence of cyber attack. And last is the damage caused by successful cyber attacks. Together, these three factors determine how secure cyberspace is for an individual user. For instance, when the vectors of attack are few, cyber attacks are harder to effectively launch, making the cyberspace environment more secure. When the number of attacks is low, the probability that a user will be subject to a cyber attack is less, again, making cyberspace more secure. Likewise, when the damage caused by a successful attack is low, the cost of a successful cybercrime for an individual is severe, meaning the environment is less threatening overall. In every case, as the vectors, occurrence, or damage of cyber attacks goes up, the overall security of cyberspace from a user's perspective goes down.
The next topic is all about the vectors of attack. But first, let me show you what is an attack vector.
What is an attack vector? An attack vector is a cybercriminal's method to exploit a vulnerability, penetrate an organization's attack surface, and carry out a cyber attack. Common attack vectors include compromised credentials. Weak and/or stolen usernames or passwords can be used in brute force or credential stuffing attacks. Phishing, whereby attackers send messages containing links to fraudulent websites to obtain sensitive data. Malware, whereby a hacker gains access to a system and installs malicious code or applications. This includes ransomware, which sees cybercriminals seize control of a device or system until the victim pays them. Domain and subdomain hijacking. Hackers take over a part of an organization's website, intercept their traffic, and point visitors to their fraudulent site. Poor encryption, resulting in the interception of traffic and sensitive data, i.e., man-in-the-middle, MITM, attacks. Zero-day attacks, exploiting previously unknown vulnerabilities in software. Misconfiguration. Incorrectly configured internet-facing assets or devices are susceptible to a breach. Denial of service, DOS, and distributed denial of service, DDoS, attacks, whereby a hacker bombards an organization's server or website with requests, causing it to significantly slow down or crash.
Vectors of attack is a method or channel an attacker uses to gain access to a system or network. There are generally two stages of attack that work in different ways: reconnaissance and active attack. Reconnaissance, an attack, involves the attacker monitoring or intercepting communications to gather information about the target system or network. They will attempt to do this without making any changes or causing any disruption. Active attack. These types of attacks involves the attacker actively engaging with the target system or network to achieve their objects, as opposed to passively observing or intercepting communication. Cybersecurity attack vectors are extremely broad. As cyber attacks become increasingly sophisticated and cybercriminals search for new ways to access networks and devices, new attack vectors are constantly developed and discovered. This means it's extremely important to stay up to date with the latest known threats and attacks, as well to check your network ready in order to be insured. And some of the most common cybersecurity attack vector examples currently known and applied to almost all organizations include remote code execution, social engineering. Cyber attacks are malicious attempts to breach the security of computer systems, networks, or digital data with intent to cause damage, disruption. They are a pervasive threat in today's interconnected world, affecting individuals, businesses, and governments. A cyber attack is any action that aims to compromise the integrity, confidentiality of your system. The goal of a cyber attack can vary depending on the attacker's motives, but common objectives include data theft, that's stealing sensitive information such as financial data, personal information, intellectual property, and secrets. Also in financial gain, extorting money through ransomware attacks or directly stealing funds. Disruption, causing service outage or denial of service attacks. Also sabotage, intentionally damaging or destroying systems or data.
The damage of cybercrime. The concept of the damage done by cybercrime is operationalized in 5 ways. This portion focuses exclusively on the cost of data breaches for companies, although this is certainly not the be-all and end-all of the cost cybercrime imposes on the users of the internet. The first operational measure of the cost of cybercrime is the average cost for a company per breach record. This measure shows the organization's cost divided by the number of compromised files. This measure is one way to show how much an organization has to pay as a consequence of cybercrime. The second measure of the cost of cybercrime is the overall average organizational cost of data breaches in a given year. This figure is basically the total price tag of dealing with data breaches. It is a good measure of the cost of cybercrime because it quantifies the absolute cost that a company needs to pay as a result of online criminal behavior. A third measure of the cost of cybercrime involves a company's detection and escalation cost. Data breaches are bad, undetected data breaches are worse. Companies invest considerable resources into IT security so that they can detect data breaches and, if warranted, act to reveal them although these sums are not necessarily sufficient. This is a good measure of the cost of cybercrime because it involves the investment that companies need to undertake since they operate in an environment with less than perfect security. A fourth measure is the cost that an organization needs to pay after a data breach in order to fix any damage done. Cybercrime can often result in damage to software and computer hardware. This is a good measure of the cost of cybercrime because, like a broken window, after a burglar breaks into a person's home, the damage done by cybercrime is not just a result of what is stolen. A fifth measure of the cost of cybercrime is the cost of lost business. Companies, in particular those that provide an online service, rely on the public's perception that their services are trustworthy. If the public thinks that using a company service will lead to a loss of personal or financial information, individuals are likely to choose other service providers or cease that activity entirely. The cost of lost business as a result of the occurrence of data breaches is a good measure of the sort of second-order effect of cybercrime on a company's balance sheet. A final measure of the cost of cybercrime is the cost of notifying victims that their records, be they personal, financial, or otherwise, have been compromised in a data breach. Even though companies might have an incentive to cover up a data breach for fear of losing business, many are legally obliged to inform those individuals that have had their information compromised. Those are all our reports. Thank you for watching.